1, 2, 3. Hello everybody, my name is Rodgon. I'm an artist, a teacher, designer, and mentor, and today I am going to teach you guys how to draw something cool. Now, let's go over what we talked about yesterday and the days before, and then we can go on to our lesson today. So we went over how to draw legs, we went over how to draw shoulders, how to draw positioning, and how to actually use your skills to be able to get to these levels of understandings. I taught you guys a little bit about the head and how that has become a part of the face that I am incredibly happy to understand now, and how we can approach it in a way that's more visual so that you can understand a little easier what you are supposed to be drawing. Right? Being able to draw quick concepts comes into play whenever you actually need to create stories or characters that are doing a lot of different things. And understanding all the concepts of perspective and anatomy facilitate the ability to be able to do that. So that's going to be something that you have to keep in mind as you go along in your career. So let's start our lesson. We also talked about common issues that artists go through and what you can do to be able to see where you stand among the line of going from initial person to, a person that tries to go into education and to like being a professional artist. All right, you have about 65 people in the chat right now. I need you guys to click that little share button. That little share button is the only way you guys can really help me as viewers. That is the one thing that actually helps me out. So do me a favor and click that little button, and I will be incredibly happy. Yay! We have gotten to the point where we have about 10,000 people in the chat. But that only comes from you guys being able to help me by clicking the little share button. I think I can't draw for shit. Can't draw arrows. I can draw everything else, but I can't draw arrows. So click that little share button and it will help me out immensely. You guys will see a huge jump. We already got to 121,000. Hi Octave, I've never clicked on a TikTok live so fast. Teach me how to not be a perfectionist. Ooh, that is a very good theme for today. That's actually quite the theme. So I actually really like that. So we are going to go with that theme for today. Let me just scoot all you guys a little bit this way so I have a little more space for my sketchbook. Boom. And I think we managed to make it work. A little bit of an angle, but I think we can manage to make that work. Let's move Instagram up a little bit so you guys can see. And we have a little bit of an issue with YouTube. There you go. Okay, all cameras are perfectly set up. Let's do this. So if you are a person that absolutely is so meticulous with your work, right? That you need to be a perfectionist in every single little element. Otherwise, you feel ashamed of it. Otherwise, you feel like you haven't done your job right, or, whatever other feeling you might have. Being a perfectionist is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a trait that you have, kind of like a personality trait. But knowing when you actually turn it on and off is going to be your key to being able to actually function, as opposed to always seeing your work as never-ending work that always needs to be completed a little bit more. The trick to it is to start creating artwork for different reasons, right? So let me give you an example. I worked in caricature work, so I did caricatures for people in theme parks. So I was a person that drew the people all funny when you go to a theme park. And I was really good at it. But I was also a very self-conscious dude. So it took a long time for me to be able to understand and be able to facilitate the idea of drawing someone silly because I thought that they would get mad at me. So instead of giving them what they're paying for, I was giving them my idea of what was ethically right to be able to give them. Which is not for, well, I guess it is for me to actually determine what I want to provide for the people. But it really is dependent on how much you are willing to let go of that control. At one point in your career, you're going to find that even if you draw a happy face or a portrait, the average person will not really understand the difference. And yes, that sounds really drastic and very like weird, but a person with no knowledge of art sees these two things as absolutely beautiful. Right? Yes, they might understand that a portrait takes a little bit more technique, a little bit more shadows, a little bit more refinement than something like a really cool sticker or an emoji, but it doesn't take away from the beauty of it. So if you are a person that is not necessarily art inclined, you're looking at all these sort of things like they're magic. Ooh. Right? They're like, oh my gosh, how did I do that? How did I get there? Oh, oh no, this is beautiful. So you get a lot of people seeing your work in a way that you don't really understand because you already have that artistic element to your career, to your drawing, to your life. So when you are being a perfectionist, you're essentially being your own worst enemy, right? Because you're being your own self-critic. So you're like, I hate this. Ugh. Why did I do that? Angry Stick Man is one of my favorite characters from a comic. Happy Noodle Boy is another one. So yeah, I love stick figure characters. Anyways, when you are being too perfectionist, essentially what you're telling yourself is that nothing that you ever create is good enough to show other people. And if you think about it like that, then you can self realize that it's a very harmful thing for your career, right? What you should be opting to, especially if you're going to go into commercial artwork, animation, or any other sort of artwork situation like that, you have to consider the fact that your knowledge or whatever your art assets are at this point, whatever you can bring to the table. In this case, let's say you only know how to draw a happy face, right? That's it. That's all you know how to draw. Everybody can draw a happy face. That is something you can do. What can you create with that? How much can you get with that from your career, from your market, from like opportunities that you might be able to get, from what you actually know what to create? This is just like your knowledge base. What can you do with that? And the moment that you add more things to that, more elements of knowledge like perspective, like anatomy, stuff like that, right? The more you add to this, this just creates a bigger amount of opportunities for you. So instead of trying to get to the final step of having like a perfect portrait or whatever, or a perfect knowledge of anatomy or perfect knowledge of storytelling or character design or anything like that. Before you get there, you have a massive amount of ability to be able to use those skills to be able to promote yourself and grow yourself as an artist with the biggest amount of opportunities possible. But you need to allow yourself to be able to understand that even though your art is not perfect yet, that does not mean that it's bad or unmarketable or unsellable or in any way, shape, or form negative in any connotation. It just means that you haven't gotten to where you want to get, but you should not feel ashamed to show your work to people at any stage, even if it's at the beginning stage when you only know how to draw a little stick figure. Right? So that's how you should be viewing it. Guys, we have about 82 people in the chat. Click that little share button for me. Click that little button right here. This is the only way you guys help me. If you guys plan on staying for the lesson, please click it, because that is the only way that you guys can actually help me. People on Instagram, you guys are only 15 people. There's never a huge crowd from Instagram, so don't worry too much about that. You guys just chill. You guys have fun. Yeah, parallel art time. Woohoo! All right, so let's see. What else should we? That's essentially the essence of perfectionism. It's just a matter of having the mental fortitude to show your artwork to people, even though you're scared that it not might be perfect, right? Yeah, like when you're afraid to show someone your artwork, and you're terrified that they're going to judge it, or they're going to, tell you that something is good, something's bad, and more terrifyingly, that something is just not right. Getting past that fear and understanding that most people, unless you're a complete asshole or jerk, is going to look at your artwork and be like, oh my God, that's so cool. Because most of the time when we see artwork, regardless of the level of skill that we are at, it's actually pretty cool to see. Right? So don't be afraid of actually showing your work to people, because they will most certainly actually receive it in a much better way than you might have. Shaolin Kitty, hi. How's it going? Let me load up the YouTube chat. Let's see if that's actually gone. Whoa, where's my... Am I not recording? Yeah, I am live. There. Whoa, where's my... All right, let's take the volume off. Peralta King over on YouTube. How's it going from Brazil? Helder Lopez, always fantastic. Thank you. Punk Lee, hello Rodgon, how's your day? My day is going fantastic. I finally got my cameras to actually point to the same place, and it actually looks pretty cool. I'm actually pretty pleased at myself. Hello Punk Lee. Rodgon, how is the new home? My new home over here in Biggar, in actually Symington in Scotland, it's really nice. I got a chance to be hosted by a wonderful family and my friends that have essentially gotten me to come all the way over here, willingly. It's been quite a peaceful transition for me. Honestly, I've never been so relaxed in my life. I've never been so stress-free. I've never been so incredibly happy to just sip on a cup of tea and smoke a joint. I've never been so incredibly relaxed, to the point where I don't even pick up my phone sometimes. There's been situations in which I'm just genuinely so caught up on just the landscapes and just being with a beautiful woman that I came over here to be with, Like all that is actually incredibly important to me right now. I'm getting close to 40 in my like age. I'm not a young kid anymore. So I have to really think about the things that I want to get done before I die, right? Like I know it sounds really morbid and everything, but that's really the case. Like my mother died a couple years ago. So it put a sense of understanding that within a couple weeks you can be gone, right? So a lot of things changed for me. And when I found the opportunity to be able to spend some time with a wonderful person that seems to love me quite a bit and explore a part of the world that I had never been to, like it was just an absolutely no brainer. I just left. And honestly, there's really no looking back. Like I don't miss the United States that much. The food sometimes, but I don't really miss it. Miss my family. Miss playing pool. But I believe to be an incredibly lucky person right now. And I could not, honestly, like, I could not have envisioned my life being like this. Like, in the last 6 years, I had a completely different outlook on life. And, you know, uh, it was time for a change. Time for something a little bit more positive in my life because I dealt with a lot of sadness for a long time. Wait, I missed this. Where are you located now? I'm located in Scotland. That's why I took like a month off. Like there was like an entire month where I didn't really stream or post anything. Um, all of February and January, honestly, was kind of like a lull. But I am incredibly happy, creatively relaxed. I have a lot of prospects when it comes down to opportunities that I want to take a chance on now that I actually have some peace and quiet. And I can actually like focus on getting my books printed for fuck's sakes. Like that has been a huge endeavor for me. Like getting my books printed so that I can get some books signed and some commissions in and stuff like that. That is a huge push for me like this coming month because I want to be an author. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a person that has books out. Like I've always wanted to have a book out, and I released a book, and I was like, oh my god, yes, I'm one of them. And then I got it printed, and it sold out, and I was like, yes, woohoo! And then I had to ship all the books, and I was like, oh dear God, I did not understand how difficult it would be to transport 200 books over to the post office, find the poor person at the post office that had to take care of that. And it was just actually quite the hilarious, like, 3 hour stint of us shipping all these books out. We became good friends after that. But I'm looking forward to doing that again because I have more books. I have yeah, and I don't want to necessarily release them as ebooks. I want to release them as actual books. Like I want to get them printed. Come in.
You see my dad?
No, Luna, but I'm streaming, so thank you. All right. You going to Lightbox this year? Yeah, I mean, ideally, I would love to go to Lightbox. Um, yeah, if I would actually love to be able to exhibit again. The one time that I got to exhibit, it was awesome. Like I got to exhibit in the very first inaugural Lightbox, and I got to have my banners. One of them was me. with Archie. And one of them was my girlfriend at the time, Marianne. Pretty woman. But yeah, so I had like a pin-up of her, and then I had my logo in the back with all my characters and all my merchandise, my books, stickers, all that stuff. It was really fun. It was actually one of the most eye-opening experiences for me when it came down to my career, because it actually led me to understand that I could actually compete with the people that I was so in love with when it came down to like their artwork. Like it made me show me that I can actually do what they do. And that was awesome. Apply for exhibit. Is it worth it? Oh yeah, it's totally worth it. Like just the fact alone that you get to like be a part of a congregation of artists that whose skill level rival like any other artist in the world. Like essentially, if you get to manage to go in there, you are going to be like just valued at a higher skill set whenever you actually apply for things, or if you want to be going into different aspects of your career. Because just being in the same category as some of the people that are there can level you up, and it'll make you feel prouder too. So it's not just like something that other people will feel, it's something that you will feel, and you will be incredibly happy about it. We don't really have much of an audience today. That's fine. Today I'm going to set up my first drawing jam in Bigger. So let's fill this little area with faces, and then we'll actually start like a lesson. So feel free to ask questions, guys. Yo, dude, how's Scotland? Gonna be in Edinburgh next month. All right, dude, hit me up. Hit me up the days that you're gonna be there, and let's see if I can meet you, and let's go draw or something. I need friends here. That is the one thing that I have not yet been able to successfully do, and is go out and like out and about in the town and just like draw people and just make friends. That is one thing that I desperately need to do. But all right, let's go. One more page. What should we draw? We have about an hour or so that I can be on here. So what do you guys think? What should we draw today? Should we draw some eyes? So I can show you guys how to draw better eyes. We can draw mouths, we can draw noses, we can draw anything. In art school, I was told my art had to have a deep purpose or it was pointless. That teacher is an idiot. Art doesn't have to have a purpose. You can just literally, and the purpose could be that it just makes you happy. Whoever told you that is a moron. Or they have a very limited understanding of what art is. Like no one should tell you or anyone that art is like your art is insignificant just because they can't see it like you do. Right? That's just like ludicrous. That's ridiculous and that's stupid. Let's see. Can I draw anime? Okay. Anime, it's just a style of drawing, right? It's a style that you can develop by understanding all the other elements of art. If you understand perspective and anatomy, anime stuff is actually really easy. So I highly recommend that you take the time to learn how to draw real anatomy before you go into drawing and like anatomy that is not based on realism. You need to learn how to break the rules before you have to learn the rules before you learn how to break them. If you want to be effective and if you're actually seeing this as something that you want to continue on as a career. Now, if you're a hobbyist and you're just looking to learn how to draw something, yeah, feel free to just copy people around. Like, that's not a problem. That's not anything bad. It doesn't mean that you're less of an artist because you do that. It just means that you're not really looking to create like a legacy or anything. You're just trying to draw. And that's perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But understand that if you understand the concept, for example, of an eye being a sphere, whatever you give as an eyelid is going to be the style that your character is going to develop. You can just as easily have a sphere and have an eye very differently, just by changing the way that those lines hit. And just as easily, you can go into something super cartoony. So the eyelid, understanding how the eyelid works will allow you to draw open eyes, closed eyes, facial expressions, anything of the sort, because you understand how the eye works. You're not trying to just copy a way of drawing something. You're actually understanding how to shape that, and then you make that into the element that you need. So that is how you guys have to learn to approach these sort of things. Like, if you're always just approaching it and like, oh, I just want to draw in that style, well, cool. That's fine. You can do that. But if you want to draw in every style, learn your foundations so that you can actually do that. All right, so we only have about 20 people on TikTok. That's weird. We normally don't have that many people on Instagram. We only have about like 10, 15 people on Instagram, but that's kind of surprising. We only have 20 on TikTok. Anyways. Hello. Let's see. Abdurmanotawa. Hey, Rodgon, I'm currently watching from work and wanted to tell you how much I love your art and how much you inspire me. Keep drawing. Yay! Is something complex Comic Con in Scotland? I'll ask because maybe you can try to sell your book with that. Yeah, I've been looking for people to publish my book over here. I don't need a company to do it. I just need a place that prints books. Like, I already have the funding for it from the ebooks. So it's just a matter of finding a place that is actually able to sell them or print them so that I can get inventory so that I can start selling. Because I really don't want to do it through Amazon, but it's looking like it's going to have to be that way. Any tips for hands? Tips for hands. Okay. Hands can be approached in a bunch of different ways. Hands can be approached like spheres or like pancakes, and then just adding fingers at the top. Hands can be thought of as boxes, as long as you have like a rounded-ish shape to your box, you can get a decent sized hand from that. Right? But just really, you can start a hand from any shape, position, or anything. You just need to understand what the hand consists of and how it's like built, so that you can just manipulate it in better ways. Hold on, I'm gonna try something on TikTok. Give me a second. You guys can just go back on in a second. I'm just going to try restarting that again. Sometimes that works. It's weird. Okay, so we're talking about the hand. And if you want to start your hand with any shape, all you really need to understand is how the fingers connect, where the fingers connect, and how the hand flows. This comes from understanding a couple elements. Let's draw a little one from the top so you guys understand the elements that I'm talking about. The first thing that you need to understand is how big of your palm do you want it to be? If you look at your hand, we're going to have a couple of different parts to it, right? We're going to have our fingers and we're going to have our palm. That's the only two parts of our hand. So it's easily about the same length, roughly from knuckle to wrist, then to wrist, or then to knuckle to finger, and the fingers. So if we already consider this being an equal amount and it's just 2, we can take any box, split it in 2, and assume that we have the proportions that we need. This is going to be the fingers. This is going to be the palm. When you try to apply that to different shapes, you can do it easily by just splitting it in half if you need to. This will be the palm. This will be the fingers. The fingers don't necessarily always stand straight up, right? Like they're not always just pointing forward. So this is the area that gets complicated for people because you need to start understanding where your knuckles fall, how your fingers bend, and how they work. And this is a matter of understanding very basic perspective. But this basic perspective is normally overlooked by people, and they assume or they think or they really, really lie to themselves thinking that they understand it, right? Some people just honestly tell themselves that they know everything about perspective, that they're really good at it, but they can't draw a circle or they can't match or subdivide a line work on a sphere, right? So if you can't do that, or if foreshortening is hard for you, right? That means that your perspective knowledge is a little bit lacking. If you have troubles bringing a leg forward from a thigh, right? The reason that it's hard for you to do that is because you can't visualize these elements from front and back. You're just drawing through style, and you have to avoid trying to do that. You have to avoid drawing through stylization. Stop stylizing things. And that's what happens a lot with hands. Instead of actually learning how to draw the hand, we learn little techniques like little swivies, and we learn to draw like the princess approach where you connect to 2 fingers. But we don't really take the time to understand what we are drawing. So we were going back to this basic breakdown of the hand, right? Our knuckle, our middle knuckle, this little motherfucker right here, right? This knuckle, let me put this up, is the determining factor of the top and the bottom of our hand. It sits right here. Okay? That knuckle sits right there. It's not here. It's not past the palm. Right? The palm contains the knuckle. So whenever you're drawing your shapes, your knuckle fits inside your palm, not outside. It doesn't go out here. Oh my God, I'm not going to take your lives. Stop fucking doing it. Jesus Christ. Every time that you guys do this live thing, you never ask a question. You guys always annoy the shit out of everybody by going, game? Game? You guys want to do a game? Like, dude, no, just shut up. If you guys want to be part of the live, ask questions here or click the little share button. because that's the only way that you guys actually help this out. It's just the only way that you guys can actually be a part of this and help me without interrupting the lesson. So do me a favor, click that little share button. And other than that, sit back, ask questions, relax, grab your sketchbook and learn. Try to draw along with me. Don't click on the, hey, do you want to be in a game with me? I don't care about your games. I'm not interested in that. I'm not doing this for social media like attention. I'm doing this to teach people. So, fuck off. Style. I have a question. You may have answered already, but what I say? But do you have any advice on how to find your own style? Yeah, finding your own style comes from understanding perspective and understanding the knowledge of whatever topic that you're trying to get good at. Right? So in this case, if it's like pinups or eyes or whatever, your knowledge of anatomy, perspective, and just the general range of knowledge of what you know from the topic is what's going to determine your style. That's if you want a very good, long-lasting style that you can actually develop. If you want to just develop something that looks cool, copy people that you like. Just copy people that you like, take the things that you like from them, and then just develop that. Right? That's the easy way. If you want the good way, like the way that's going to preserve your style and you're going to be able to understand it, it comes with a lot of knowledge and a lot of time practicing your shit. So it doesn't just come from copying other people. It comes from understanding what you're drawing so that you can actually break it down. And if you can't explain to someone how you're drawing your style, then it's not your style. That's as simple as I'm going to explain it to you. If you don't have the ability to explain how you draw and why you draw things to other people, then you don't really know what you're drawing. So I don't know if you could consider that your style. So think about it like that. Okay, going back to the hand. Once you find your middle knuckle, you know that to one side of the hand, there's going to be one knuckle. So 1 to this side. And then there's going to be 2 to this side. Right? So any of these hands, 1 to this side, 2 to the other side. 1 to this side, let's do the other side. 2 to the other side. 1 to this side, 2 to the other side. Cool. We have all our knuckles already set up in our palm. Our knuckle also gives us the top and the bottom of our hand because the thickness of this knuckle is what gives the thickness to your hand. This little squishy part, that's just your knuckle. That's your knuckle underneath. That's just the ball. You can feel it. Go ahead. Just take your hand, grab it, and just notice that the top and the bottom of your hand is just your knuckle. So if you already know the top and the bottom of your hand, or the knuckles, all you got to do is mark the top and the bottom of your hand. Ooh, so maybe you have some very weird fingers. Like start with your fingers. You have the top and the bottom of your hand already. You just got to find the rest of the shape. So once you have your knuckle on your palm, your fingers, whatever your fingers are going to be doing, just comes from your knowledge of perspective. How can you move your fingers without it looking weird? So now that we have our fingers, we can do our little segments. The thumb comes from about 1/4 of the way up. So if this is your palm, you split it in half, and that's roughly where your thumb is going to come out from. Now your thumb moves a lot. It can move a lot, right? It doesn't just stick to this motion. It's like, Jesus Christ, like a wing. It just bleh, like drops and it raises and it's shoot, shoot, shoot. So it's all over the place. So that's why I don't like to draw it apart with this part of the hand. I'd like to draw it separately. Once I figure out everything else in the hand, then I decide where my knuckle is for my thumb, and then I just finish my hand like that. My knuckle tells me all the information that I need. So that is a fantastic way to visualize it. You can start drawing your hands by drawing your wrist and then drawing your middle knuckle and then figuring out what you want to do with the rest of the fingers. So you can come up with a lot of like hand motions and like hand expressions that you probably wouldn't have never thought about. So that is a good way to visualize hands. And once you understand where those things go, like those little holes and stuff like that, or like the little balls, you can just start drawing random shapes, coming up with a knuckle. Let's move our fingers this way. I don't know. And then just start seeing what happens when you start adding elements like fingers. You end up with pretty cool things that you might never have drawn before. You just got to start visualizing things a little bit different. How do you control hair? Hair. Hair is another situation in which I noticed that a lot of people don't understand perspective or anatomy. Because when I see somebody draw their heads, right? If they're drawing a head and their hair is like that, and they have like a massive amount of space between the hair, and it's not necessarily meant to be stylized. I understand that it's mostly like anime and like some sort of other like, references that lead you to be able to draw like that or to draw like that, period. Real hair is kind of like a piece of cloth on top of your head. Okay. We have our normal face. We have a normal Stan. There you go, Stan. How's it going? The concept of drawing through your shape to find the circumference of your skull is critical if you want to learn how to draw hats, if you want to learn how to draw hair, if you want to learn how to draw any sort of element on top of your head. You need to understand the concept of drawing through your shape, front and back, and figuring out the depth of your shape. Because this is the only way to understand where you're supposed to connect the dots when it comes down to things like hats, things like hairlines, right? If you have like a hairline, like a buzz cut, doing things like this helps you understand where your ears are going to go as well. So you trace through your shape, ear one. Oh, guess what? The other ear is on this side. And that also helps you with your jaw, right? Because you start learning how to draw, meet up, and then go to the other side, completing your face. So learning that concept and figuring out and understanding where the front and the back of elements go is a very, very simple concept and perspective that nobody ever applies to their work until they get to a certain level of talent or skill or visualization or whatever the hell you want to call it. hard foreshortening, hand foreshortening. Well, I'm going to teach you how to foreshorten things, period. And if you can take that same knowledge and apply it to hands, that's fantastic. But I'm going to teach you for all of you that have never really understood foreshortening, I'm going to explain it to you guys really simple. Okay? The first thing you need to know in order to know how to foreshorten things is to know that you have to have two elements. Right? One element and another element. At the very beginning, your elements could just be circles. Learn to subdivide your objects like a globe. Learn this, make this a part of your daily routine if you can't get it. Learn to just see the surface of your elements and be able to draw over them. This is the key. This is the trick. This is the magic thingy that you guys are always wondering about that makes you a better artist. The first step of this concept of drawing is the most important. You need to understand this. That this is like a 3D shape. It's not a circle with lines. It's a 3D shape. A lot of people do this by creating shadows. Right? Shadows don't teach you this. Stop thinking shadows are a fundamental skill. Shadows are not a fundamental skills for shit. They're not. You don't need to understand shadows until later. Later. Way later. Learn how to subdivide your shapes. This is the way. Yes. Once you learn how to do this, I want you guys to start deforming your shapes. Right? Making them longer, making them squishier, making them oblong. Just get used to drawing that shape in every way and learning how to squish it and mold it. The next step after that is slowly combining the shapes by overlapping them. Your concept of drawing through your shape still applies, but you won't see part of one of the shapes. Slowly start overlapping your shapes. Put one in front of the other. Just get used to doing this. Do a whole page of these things. Do 10 pages of these things, right? Do 20 pages of these things if it doesn't click. And if it doesn't click, write down why. Why does not click? Why am I not getting this? Why? Let me ask Rod next time he's live. Why is this not working? Let me send Rod a message on Instagram. Maybe he'll help me. Odds are I will. So, things like this. Slowly learn to overlap. And this is the critical point. This is where your knowledge kicks in. Right? Your knowledge is going to consist of anatomy and perspective. When you combine these simple elements, right, but you start adding actual anatomy to them, and you understand the complexity that comes from those other elements, you start getting hands. You can start getting legs. You can start getting fingers. Right? All these are this exact concept, only with a little bit more knowledge. That is why it's important to understand this. You can get really far by just drawing basic shapes and understanding that shit and just doodling. You can get really far. I had a 15-year-long career based on strictly this, right? But it wasn't until I actually took the time to study anatomy, study actual perspective. Like if something gets closer to you, it's bigger. If it gets farther away from you, it's small, right? So if you do this, but now you want to really foreshorten something, make something big in the front, something little in the back, and overlap it. And now it's going to start looking more like a forced perspective thing. But you're not going to be completely thrown out the window not knowing what you're drawing because you did your practice. You did all these exercises. And just doing them blindly is irrelevant, right? You got to understand that this is groundwork to understanding how to use your basic shapes to create things like legs, forearms, fingers, stuff like that. This is step one. This is baby steps, right? If you want to get to the point where you play with Mario Kart with the big dogs, you need to learn a little bit more about what it takes to get there. What was your career? I was a freelance artist for 15 years. So I got really far with the knowledge that I had. But at the end of the day, I realized that I was kind of cheating myself because I was trying to teach people and I didn't even know how to draw a fucking hand right. Right? That was like, I don't know if you guys remember, like back in the day, about 6 years ago, I stopped using my YouTube channel and I stopped posting because I felt like a fraud. Because I wanted to be a teacher so badly that I skipped so many steps, right? How can you be a teacher when you don't really know what you're about to teach people? Where did you start freelancing? I just started freelancing through forums. Like I was in a skating community. I used to skate a lot. And then I just started posting my artwork. People will always come to artists for assistance. You guys have a superpower. Your art, what you guys do is a freaking superpower. I don't think you guys can realize how important it is for there to be creative people in the world. We essentially manufacture every idea, concept, and like story that non-creative people have. So if you're ever hired to do a logo, they didn't hire you to do a logo because they couldn't they could do the logo, but they thought that you were much cooler. No, they hire you because they don't really know how to do it. And to them, it's fucking magic that you can do that. Everybody that hires a creative person, most of the time wishes that they were able to be that creative person. But they chose different avenues of life, and now they just get to boss one around. You seem cool. Thank you for your advice. Oh, you're welcome. I like to think I'm okay. This is the same thing as this. Yeah, this teaches you where you are very quickly and very humbly. Doing a skills test is also another way that you guys can go about this. If you guys are interested, I can show you guys how you can do a little test at home. Let's see, what time is it? It is 2. Might head out in a little bit. But let's do a little skill test. So you guys can do this at home. You guys can do this as I go along, right? You can do it along with me. And you guys will be able to notice where you sit in regards of like a scale when it comes down to your level of knowledge of anatomy and perspective. So the first thing that we do, we start at level 0. Level 0 is a face. A happy face. The most simple way that you can draw something. Okay? Skill level assessment. Okay? That's level 1. Level 2, just add a little bit of detail to that face. Let's just add a nose. Cool. Let's go one step further. Maybe we actually make the eyes look like eyes. Or maybe we just add eyebrows. Same thing. Okay. Maybe we'd add ears. Still no level of detail when it comes down to actual anatomy. So it's at this point, it's just stylization and just understanding how to actually draw face. The next step, maybe we add a little bit of detail to the eyes and we add some hair. So ears. Let's make the eyes a little bit more like eyes. Eyebrows, nose, mouth, and let's give it some hair. Okay. After that, maybe we start adding details like eyelids and nostrils. So we go over here. So we're going to start adding a little bit of knowledge about anatomy at this point, because adding an eyelid is adding a little bit of anatomy. Eyebrows. Our nose will maybe have nostrils. And maybe we draw a lower lip, because it's easy to draw a lower lip. No knowledge of anatomy of the skull is used at this point still. At this point, it's just positioning and very, very basic line work. Now, once we start getting to this level of detail, this is when you're going to start having issues if you don't understand your anatomy, right? Because then you need to start adding cheekbones, chins, and other little bony parts that stick out. So once you get here, understanding the concepts of the skull, even at a rudimentary level, right? Knowing that will give you the ability to draw things a little bit more accurate every time. Your cheekbones especially, because that plays such a big role in the little curvatures that you see in your drawing. Okay, so at this point, anatomy starts taking over. The thing is, instead of people learning how to stylize through learning and the concept of anatomy, they skip all this and then they go to the next step, which is stylization. The thing is, if you don't understand how your skull and everything is built, you're not going to understand a lot of the things that people do to stylize their characters. So if you don't understand the cheekbones into the mouth, it's going to be really hard for you to draw something like the Joker or Venom or anybody with an exaggerated mouth. If you don't understand how the neck works, right, you're not going to be able to draw characters like the Hulk and stuff like that effectively, because you won't really understand how that connects to the actual body. So that is essentially a skills test that you can do. See how far you normally get before your anatomy kicks in. And then once your anatomy kicks in, start breaking down different parts of, like, for example, you can go with the eyes. Maybe you start with your eyes like this. But then slowly adding other elements to your eye, you can develop the ability to draw something incredibly more detailed. And it only comes through going through these little tests and stuff and paying attention to what you don't know and what you do know, and build your skill set depending on what your flaws are, not your strengths. Build them up through your flaws. And then eventually you'll be able to draw your anime eyes that you love so much. Very easy. Right? So that's a skill test that you guys can take. Just keep on adding detail until you can't. And then realize why you can't. And then go back and study the foundations that will help you get past that bridge. That is what I would tell everybody in my school. If I ever have a school, I'm going to do this test with them at the beginning and see and assess their level of understanding, and then base an educational system according to that. I'm using that advice for programming. Yeah, that would work perfectly for programming. Did you make it look so three-dimensional? How? What do you mean? Which one? What thing? Life drawing is most helpful to me seeing detail in person. Yes, life drawing is incredibly cool, but you have to realize that whenever you're doing life drawing, if you're not taking the time to actually if you're just looking at the shadows and you're not actually looking at how things blend together or the proportions and all that stuff, that is very important as well. You need to understand that your time with the model can help you in a ton of different ways and not just your realism. So life drawing is an incredibly valuable tool, and if you guys have the ability to go to classes that offer life drawing classes, I highly suggest it because it's an incredibly good tool to know. Booty. I like to draw a box and sculpt the head as if it's 3D. Yeah, I like doing that too. Grabbing a box, right? And then going in and breaking it down in three-dimensional shapes and seeing where everything is gonna line up. It's really cool, and I like doing this too. This is a very good way to practice your anatomy and your perspective. Your understanding of the concepts of the neck, the head, all that is going to come into play when you guys actually try to get the jobs that you guys want to get, which normally involve being animators, character designers, storyboard artists, visual developments, artists. All that stuff requires you to be at an expert level of this stuff. So my biggest advice for you is to start now, because this takes a while to master. Right? It doesn't just happen, and it doesn't just come out of nowhere, and no one's going to give you a trick to learn how to do it easy, because it's not easy. It's not easy at all. If being an artist was an easy profession, everybody would be successful and they'd be like lawyers, right? They'd just be like, oh, well, I'm an illustrator. I make so much money with illustration. No, it's not. It's not that kind of career. And it's not that kind of job. Okay? You normally get into this because you love it, not because you're trying to profit from it. And that is something, again, that a lot of people do not understand when they get into it. So, yes, you can make a lot of money with it if you have the right mentality and if you have the right opportunities. But off the bat, it's not going to be you're not going to be a millionaire just for doing this. So you got to understand that, because a lot of mentality of the young kids nowadays is just doing something for the quick buck. And even though you can, especially with this like last thing with the NFTs and shit like that. You know, a lot of people saw a lot of money come in really quickly. But that's not necessarily the case with everything that you do, and it's not going to be a consistent factor. So you need to really understand your market. Your education is going to be absolute key. And even if you're not going to school for it, you need to educate yourself by going online and finding as many resources as you can, because you're going to be left behind if you don't. And if you want to really do this for a living, you really need to get on top of that shit, because that is a factor that just puts you ahead of everybody. Well, we're going to just fill up the page with a couple more sketches, and then we're going to call it a day. I have my first art meetup over in Bigger in Scotland. I'm going to set up a little coffee break, like just drawing jam for people. I want to meet some new people. Like, I want to make new friends, right? Like, I miss my artist friends. I miss my people from the zoo. I miss my people. Like, I miss my friend Jerry. I miss like all my creative people that I left back home. So I need to build another network that allows me to be able to bounce ideas from and get inspired from, other than just being online and then doing these sort of things, right? So that's my homework. My homework is to go out and talk to human beings. That is what I'm putting on myself as my own personal project for this week. Make at least a couple friends and, get a little community going, because I'm good at that. Like, I am fantastic at that sort of stuff. So I'm going to use my strengths, the things that I know, the things that I am not like I'm known for, the things that I can pull together, and then just use my range and my skill sets to build myself the life that I want. I've been doing that so far with artwork. Like, I've been wanting to teach forever and I never got a degree, right? I never got a teaching credential, so I was never able to teach in California. But I can teach on YouTube, I can teach on TikTok, I can teach on Instagram, and I have a bigger class size than any of those teachers or students will ever have. Right? I'm teaching to thousands of people a day. Thousands. And that is just something that I am incredibly proud of for having been able to do it. But I'm also incredibly happy, that like my little silly dream of being a teacher is actually coming to fruition. And that's just super fun for me. What do you do to protect your art thieves? I don't care. They can't protect. Okay, so a person that steals artwork is going to steal your artwork regardless. They're not going to stop because you put things in protection for, like, oh, I'm going to put a watermark. No, that's just making your art look like shit. Watermarks don't do anything. I personally know how to remove any complicated watermark within 2 minutes. Like, that's not going to stop anyone from stealing your work, right? And most of the time, the watermark is irrelevant because they're using it as a reference. They're not using it as an absolute copy of your thing. So why do that? Just be proud and be confident in the fact that your artwork will, stand out, as opposed to being terrified and never putting your artwork out there, therefore never getting any acknowledgement for the cool things that you think people will steal. And at the end of the day, you end up with no notoriety, no presence, or no, awareness of what you could have done because you're so terrified that somebody else might steal it. So that's what I think. I have never watermarked past the exit of my school. And the only reason that I watermarked them then was because my fucking teachers were just like, oh, you need to protect your artwork. I'm like, yeah, I understand that, but I need to make people actually want to see my artwork before I actually protect it. Like, there's no point of me creating all these watermarked images if no one is watching them and no one's seeing them. It also doesn't hurt with the people using an art as a reference that they put out there. The thing is, we all do that. We all do that. Like, if I tell you that I came up with, like, I don't know, I'm just gonna draw this little pose right here, right? Just like a little quick pinup. So now I have that character. Now, if I saw someone draw a character in that pose, do I have the right to be pissed off to them? No, I don't. I sell my books like this. I sell entire books like this so that people don't have to worry about thinking. Like, I sell these books. It's called Art Block. It's one of the books that I sell. And I sell them so that people don't have to worry about thinking more than they need to for their projects. Like, if you're having a tough day drawing legs, flip to a leg part and then draw it. That is what you're supposed to like do when you have like problems with art. You find an image, you find the reference, and then you fix it. That is what you do. That is just essentially how art works. You can't just be like, oh, well, I drew that. I drew that eye. No one else can ever draw this eye because I drew this eye. No one else can draw a lucky mug because on that angle because I drew that lucky mug. Even if they draw it after they see my shit, who cares? If you're that afraid of people stealing your work, that sucks, man. Like, that is just a terrifying thing to go through because you're never gonna feel the joy from seeing people create fan art from your work, right? You're never gonna see the joy and someone going like, oh my God, you made something click. Ah, thank you so much for helping me with that. When you're always scared of someone else outdoing you, outshining you, that just means that your light is not very bright in the first place. How you should be is very different. You should help others shine, and that makes you shine. And that makes you a more valuable person to the people that you want to be valuable to. Yeah, you can give credit to the OG person if you remember that you drew that. Like, I'm pretty sure that a lot of these hands and positions are like from a million different artists. Like, whenever I draw an eye and I draw it like this, I attribute it a lot to Scott Campbell, right? But I also acclimate the fact that I understand these shapes to a bunch of other teachers. And the fact that I like make my nostrils and stuff like that in a certain way, I attribute that to another artist. So at what point do you just credit all the people based on the ability of you to be able to put all those elements together? Right? I'll give it to you. Like, at what point is it okay for them to reference you? And at what point do you stop being okay with them referencing you? I'm waiting. True, unless your reference is from... It doesn't matter if it's from one artist. I think I've studied Randy Bishop more than any other artist in my life. I attribute a lot of the design elements that I use to the way that he draws. Right? That does not mean that every drawing that I do is always going to have to be credited to him. It just means that I learned something from him, I adopted it to my own benefit, and then from there, I made my own artwork based on that. Now, it would be really interesting if two people came up with the same concept after one person uses the other one as a reference. That would be interesting. No, there's no trouble. Like, I like questions like this. Like, this is the type of questions that I really like. Right? These are like having actually something to talk about that's past like, oh, let's just draw eyes, let's just draw a face. That's like things like that actually make me super happy to discuss because I don't get to talk about them with anybody other than you guys. Everything is a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. But see, to a certain extent too, because all that mixture of style, right? Like I think I've talked about this a couple times in the past. Let's see. When was the last time that we talked about this? Right, how to find your style. So you're talking about how to find your style when you were talking about anatomy and like proportions and stuff like that. You find your style through your knowledge of anatomy and perspective, plus your imagination. Your imagination consists of things like, let's see, I have an even deeper breakdown of this. Hold on. Where is it? Wasn't that long ago, honestly. Yeah, somebody wanted a flip through of the book anyways. Where did I put it? Well, we talked about, there you go. Ta-da! So, style. How to find your style. Foundations, right? Your foundational skills, perspective, plus knowledge of a topic. In this case, if it's characters, it's anatomy. If it's fashion, it's clothes. If it's, like game development, it might be weapons, it might be things like that. Plus your imagination lead you to your style, right? So you can take your style is based on your knowledge of this. Now, that is for a concrete, solid style. This is not for a style based on stylization or copying from someone. Because once you learn, if you only learn through copying other people, you are limited to the knowledge that other people have put out for you to be able to copy. So you need to really deviate from that and actually start seeing your style for the knowledge that you have and how you apply it and how you break the rules once you actually learn them. You are amazing. I'm a fellow artist myself, but I love to use pastel chalk. Hey, that's awesome, man. I love using these things called water color sticks. Let me see if I can find them. Yeah. These guys right here. Color sticks are awesome because they give you, let's click to like a page with very little color. And let's do it here. These are really cool. They're like colored pencils, but without the wood. And on certain paper, it's incredibly smooth, and they don't smudge either. So that's a very, very, it's one of my favorite materials to actually draw with, because it's the same thing that I used to do for the caricatures. So it then blends really nicely too. They blend incredibly nicely. So let's blend like a blue. And then we'll mix it in with the orange. It's kind of like a wax. So you just layer them on little by little and you get really cool gradients. Kind of like a colored pencil, honestly, but it's just easier to work with. So that's something that I really like using. I just haven't used them yet. I just found them when I was moving. So I plan to use these a lot more when it comes down to more rendered pieces. I haven't drawn in a month. Any motivation you can give me? Well, if you don't like drawing, I have a very, very, very bad news for you, man. Being an animator requires you to draw more than any other career. So if you can't find the motivation to draw by yourself, you need to really reevaluate why you want to do animation, because that is going to be a very tough job for you to actually want to do if you can't find motivation by yourself to draw, because it takes a lot of drawing. Through the ages, we study other artists. After years and years, a style will emerge. Yeah, it doesn't have to take too long. Like, honestly, it doesn't take that long to understand how to draw something cool and call it your style. It really doesn't. It's a matter of like just knowing. If you can understand something, then you can call it your style. You can have thousands of styles. Like, you don't have to be relegated to one. What is the best way to practice when you have art block? Come watch me draw and then draw along with me. That is a very good way, I have been told, to get through art block. Another way to do it is through my books. You guys can purchase my art block books, which is an anti-art block book. It wasn't because I was lazy. I can't imagine time. What? I can't find time because of university classes and parts. Again, priorities. If you have work and a job and a life, but it's not what you want to do, you want to be an animator, then you need to start seeing how badly you want to be an animator. If you want to be an animator, you might have to cut out some things, sacrifice some stuff, be without for a little bit so that you can actually get the life you want. You can't have everything you have now, have no time, and then expect to be able to do anything with it. You need to make the time. You need to go into the rest of your life, see what you can cut out, eliminate, or prioritize so that you can actually get the life you want. Otherwise, you're always going to be in the same situation. And I said, someone, live with only what you can for a year so that you can have the life you want for the rest of your life. Have you have any tips on drawing comics? Yeah, learn storytelling. And again, learn anatomy, learn perspective. Because you need a lot of good posing when it comes down to like comics, right? So you need to be able to move your characters at will. It's kind of like a staging set. Like, you need to be able to understand what you're drawing so that you can properly position them in your script. You can't just magically go into a comic, try to copy all the poses from other comics, and then expect yourself to be successful. You just can't do that. Like, yeah, you can probably get away with it a couple times, but when someone actually asks you to do something truly original, you're just going to freeze up and you're going to be like, yeah, it's just not something that I do, man. As opposed to being like, hell yeah, I understand what I'm drawing and I've been drawing my whole life. I can do this very easily. Things like drawing women, things like drawing monsters, comics, all that stuff comes with a specialization that you have to think of you're actively searching for. You can't just magically learn how to draw women attractively like a pinup. You just can't. It takes a fuckload of fucking effort. Like, it takes a long time for it to click. It took years for me to understand how to draw the female figure right. And when I learned that, I learned because I learned how to draw an actual human body, right? Like, I took the time to study how to simplify the shapes, the structure, the styling, every other aspect of it like that. And then I slowly started using my knowledge about basic shapes and overlapping, right? If I can overlap two shapes, I can create a beanbag. If I can create a beanbag, I can create a rib cage. If I can create a rib cage, I can create a hip. If I can create the hips, I can create the legs. If I can create the legs, then I can create the foot. If I know where the foot goes, then I bend this up. This is perfectly fine. Now, with arms, if you start paying attention to little tiny sections, like your elbow fits right at the rib cage area, right? And then this is going to be the same distance as that, but with your hands. And then your neck and your head are going to be, your neck and head are the same size as to the first part of your rib cage, right? And that's a normal, like standard face head shape that I can do. Then, since I know that my rib cage is this long and my arm is this long, I know that if I bring my arm up is only going to reach at the top of my head. It's just understanding angles and how to position your shapes. Once you understand all these basic elements of proportions, then it comes down to your anatomy knowledge and how muscles connect and how parts are like within each other, which is hard. It is not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. It's not easy. That's why not everybody's an artist, because some people just can't visualize that, right? Some people, it comes a lot easier to others. Like to me, it was hard. This might seem like I know exactly what I'm doing really quickly, but this took years of time to be able to actually make it click in my head like that. Right? So this is, you're seeing years of like understanding trying to be compacted into a 10-second lesson to help you guys maybe have it click for you as well. And that is my job. They should call me Rodgon the Clicker. But yeah, like little knowledge like that, a little bit of understanding, a little bit of going on Pinterest and just drawing shit from there for a while will actually help you every day. So I highly recommend that you do that. So anyways, I think that will be it for today's lesson. We streamed for a while today. Let's see how long we actually went on here for. We were on here for an hour and 30 minutes. So we spent about an hour and 30 minutes teaching. That sounds like a very valuable amount of time. No, we don't really have more time because I got to get ready to go to my drawing session. So I will maybe stream a little bit later tonight, but if you guys do see me online, click on it, share the little button. We only got 8 shares, which is a little sad, honestly. Like, we only had 8 shares today. Sad face for Rod. Yeah, unfortunately, you know, you guys, I keep on saying it, but you guys just don't do it. But, all right, whatever. I don't do this for the likes, but it would be nice to be able to reach more people, honestly. That is, like, the only reason that I'm more, like, concerned about doing that. But anyways, have a wonderful day, everybody. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. If it's the morning, if it's the afternoon, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I hope you guys learned something. And if you guys do want to support, let's let little Rod talk to you guys about the things you guys can do to support me. Hello, everybody. My name is Rod. I am actually a copy of some streamer that just kind of looked like Rod. So hi. Anyways, if you guys want to help support this motherfucker right here, you guys can do so in a couple different ways. You guys can do so by purchasing one of his 3 awesome books. Coffee Break Doodles. It's a collection of his favorite artwork of his career. Art Block is a bunch of doodles like these, just meant to help you break your art block in with little lessons. And Pinups, which is a collection of beautiful ladies, such as this one. Aww. And some many other things that I like to draw. So those 3 books are there for sale. Those 3 books are available as ebooks as a bundle as well. That is the best way to support me. I don't necessarily like taking donations, and I don't like taking just random money from people. I like being able to earn it. So if you guys do happen to want to support, please feel free to take one of those books up. My YouTube is Rodgon the Artist, as you guys would see right at the top. If you guys go subscribe to that, there's over 250 videos just like this that you guys can just stream, play in the background, or if you guys actually want to learn something, it is a fantastic tool for you as well. So have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you guys so much for drawing with my buddy, and I will see you guys soon. Later, Gators.